I'm at that age where when I get to the end of the year, I try to reflect on things. And one of the things I reflect on is how I felt in years past. When you get to the end of the year, what do you focus on for the next year? What are the things you're noticing and paying attention to? And, I look back fondly on, remembering, technical trends. One of the presentations I used to give 25 years ago was how technology is getting easier to apply and how dramatically that's going to affect the future of our industry. And this was coming out of the 1980s and 1990s where, video was nascent to us. I mean, we went from using, 3/4 inch U-matic decks in the 1980s and then VHS and things like that on very archaic CRT projectors and, CRT monitors and displays. It was a nightmare. Audio was more complex. Wireless frequencies were a nightmare to manage. Lighting was just moving into the world where you could program things, and moving lights were taking on new roles and getting involved in lighting. And all along the way, every new innovation required, very technically oriented people to, navigate, to program, to engineer, to tweak all of these devices to make them work and to get them to talk to each other. And it took a very special kind of individual. But about the turn of the century, the technology started suddenly to get easier, and we started moving into digital realms, and digital video didn't require all the timing and the scopes and the waveforms and the vectors and the time-based correctors to make it work. You didn't need a 30-year veteran of broadcast video to set up an AV show. Young people were coming in and figuring this stuff out overnight. The young lighting people were embracing the new digital moving lights and all the things they could do with them, and the new consoles and the programmable consoles, while the old people were still slogging through going, my way is better, and slowly working their way into those new technology. Because each generation of technology became easier to use, much less expensive. Compare what it costs to buy a video switcher now versus what it cost 25 years ago. A digital audio console now versus the giant analog audio consoles we drug around. So much has changed, but I don't think about technology anymore. It just is, right? And it's simple, and no one brand seems to be better than the other. People have their preferences, but the fact of the matter is you can get good sound, you can get good light, you can get good video out of pretty much any device manufactured on the market. Are some better than others? Of course they are. Some technicians are better than others. People's standards are different. But the fact of the matter is technology is easy to apply, and it allows us to do so many more important things rather than just be the technical solution, right? When we're just the technical solution, people only take our advice on, is the technology going to work? They don't listen to us about their content. They don't listen to us about the flow of the show. They don't listen to us about agendas. They don't listen to us about, the visual reality of the audience. All they care is, hey, your job is to get the sound, in people's ears and get the pictures on the screens. We'll take care of the rest. But now we are deeply involved in the events, and that's something to be excited about. And here we are. It's only a quarter century later. So much has changed in the second half of my career that barely moved in the first half of my career. We slowly creeped into a presentation age with archaic equipment. And now with the technologies that we use today, we move faster and faster and faster, and the sky's the limit. So what's that got me thinking about? Well, what really happened in 2025 that's going to make a difference in the future? Stay with me. I want to talk about that. Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now onto the show. So I'm thinking about it, and there's three things. There's three things I have noticed in 2025 that I think are going to have a lasting effect on the industry. And by lasting effect, at least, 5 years, right? Everything's going to keep changing, right? Nothing's set in stone. We're not getting to the final stage of evolution where everything's going to work from this point forward. No, it's constantly going to be changing, but it's always getting better. And here are the things I think that's making it better right now from my humble seat of observing, talking to business owners, coaching people, and staying on the outside and looking in as something that is, at one hand, very familiar to me, the events business. On the other hand, is very different because how we go about it has changed so much since the beginning of my career. So the three things that I'm excited about. First of all, I notice these things primarily when I get together with groups of people. My intentional success clubs come together and have meetings. I've hosted these jumpstart workshops for a decade now. Industry events, I don't go to as many as I used to, but I certainly visit a lot of people's offices and talk to folks in our industry all the time. So getting out there in the wild, here's what I'm seeing differently when I walk into somebody's office. There are more women in management positions than ever before. Now, there's always been some women in sales. There's been the occasional, woman labor coordinator is what they always get called, and things like that, buried in operations. 1 out of 10 people in a company might be a female for whatever reasons. And it's not right or wrong. It's just the industry that we've been in. We've always been an AV technically side managed business, which has attracted a lot more men than women, for whatever reasons that you want to apply to that. But seeing more women in AV event management and sales is awesome because I'm seeing they're much more open-minded. Not that women in and of themselves are more open-minded, but by introducing the dynamic into any environment, whether it's a team of people putting together an event for multiple companies or within one company, we're getting a different point of view, different opinions, and different considerations that we weren't before. And that's good, right? Diversity is always going to be good in your business if you listen open-minded to those ideas. So open-minded people bring ideas. If they hit closed minds, they move on and go somewhere else. If open-minded people are leaving your company, that says more about you than it does about them. If you're having trouble finding women who fit into your business, that says more about you than it does about them. So this is a good trend. I like this trend a whole lot because I feel like it's much easier to get consensus on some of the ideas that I'm putting forward. Diversity in points of view, you get insights. You get these broader views, you get challenges to the status quo much more frequently. And let's face it, we're a service industry. Okay. The service industry benefits the most from looking like your customers. It's much easier to open up the doors if you look like your customers, and your customers are diverse. You're not, doing events for male dominated companies, right? You're doing events for people who, for companies that have people from all aspects of life, all parts of society, all races, creeds, and colors, not to mention chromosomes. So look like your customers, embrace the open ideas, get into the stream, right? Get in the river. The river's flowing and you can't hold the river back. So get in it and move with it and see what happens for you. So I like this trend. The attendees at Jumpstart, the female attendees of Jumpstart have grown dramatically. They coalesce faster. They make friends more easily. They embrace ideas sooner. They celebrate success better. They add so much to the environment that I actually find the men around them sitting up straighter, paying more attention, and trying to stay in the conversation because these women are moving forward. And there's a whole bunch of people who would be left behind if not for their leadership. I'm excited about that. That's going to make a huge difference in our segment of the industry, which has been male dominated for far, far too long. It's going to take us into the next 25 years. Speaking of that, what else is going to take us forward? Like most, people of a certain age, there's always that generation you can't stand. I remember when I was a manager, and the 20-year-olds that were working in my warehouse drove me nuts because their priorities were wrong, right? They didn't take direction well. They didn't go the extra mile. They didn't have the work ethic. And now that I've been doing this for 40 plus years, I find that every oldest generation or every oldest segment of managers and owners say the same damn thing about every person who comes and works in their warehouse at 18, 19, or 20 years old. They say the same thing. They don't have our work ethic. They don't have our commitment. And, while, anecdotally, that's probably true, but we've always had knuckleheads in our workforce. And I go back and I say, hey, you're 65 years old. You can't tell me that when you were 20, you didn't work with some people who were just like these kids today. Oh, yeah, there was Bob. He was like that. But that's my point exactly. If you're having trouble with your younger workforce, that tells me a lot about you. It just tells me they're a young workforce. They lack experience. They didn't scoop ice cream or sell newspapers when they were 12 years old, like some of us did. They're entering the workforce later in life, but they are smart and they know how to learn things. And if we're not using them correctly, we're not going to understand how they think and how they work, and we're not going to get the most out of them. But what I like about the current young generation, whatever number, letter we're calling them now, whatever nickname we've given them, is that they are very quick to reject old school thinking. They see it, they spot it. If it is not part of their world, if they recognize it as something from the past, they're questioning it. Why is that still around? They reject things like relationship selling. Relationship selling, I think, is very much of my generation. It still creeps me out. I don't like talking about it, and I don't like hanging out with the relationship selling salespeople because I find it disingenuous. I find it adds no value. I find that it's manipulative. Do I have opinions about it? Yes, I do. But my goodness, here's this generation of people who are rejecting that, saying, I don't want to talk to a salesman who's trying to chat me up. I don't want to talk to a salesman that's slinging BS my way to try and impress me with everything they know and everything they've done. I want to talk to somebody who's going to listen to me, help me solve my problem, and give me an honest answer. So this next generation, as they are also customers and not just your employees, they don't like price shopping. Price shopping is like, what's the point? There's always a lowest price. They have such a much more healthy relationship with the price of things than older generations do. They kind of know price doesn't matter. Are you getting what you want? You get what you pay for. We say that all the time, but we don't practice it. They challenge us to that. So they don't price shop, and they embrace honesty. They embrace honesty in the sales process. They are quick to say, I don't know how to do that. I could learn how to do that. But if there's somebody else, if you need to find somebody who knows how to do that now, I'm not that person. That's fantastic. Okay. Customers want that. The buyers today want that. But if you can sit down with somebody and say, you've got some great ideas, my team is excited to figure out how to implement them. We're going to make some mistakes along the way. Can we have some fun doing it? Yeah. Next gen, all in. Let's go do it. It's exciting for me. The thing that I think is going to impact our industry the most from this newest generation of workforce is work-life balance. The same thing that makes curmudgeons like me angry is the thing that is going to make our industry better. Work-life balance means I don't have to work 80 hours a week to be successful. I'm not going to stay up late because you didn't plan things well. I'm going to reject the hero system that says you're only successful if you over deliver, if you spend too much time working on something. They're looking at those things going, why is that necessary? This is my job. Some of us make our jobs our lives, and this industry really attracts those folks. That doesn't mean that it makes us better. Matter of fact, if you read my book Balance, for instance, there's always a character in a company, and there's one in my book, is that person in your company who is the consummate hero. They will save the day. They will solve every problem. They will work every job. They will take every shift, and they will always make the outcome come out great. And we rely on them. And what I find is that is always what is holding us back. That one person that we rely on means that we don't have to have systems and process. And in fact, heroes reject systems and processes because the system is call on me and I will fix it. The process is I will make it better and I will be the hero. That is the process. And while it is not just ego driven, it is by definition an egotistical way of looking at the world. If you're so good, why can't you find a better way of doing this so that everybody else can be good at it too? And then you can go be good at the next thing. That would be awesome. And I'm seeing that in a younger generation that says, I will work 40 hours a week. I'll work 50 hours a week if it makes sense. I am not giving up my life. I am not giving up my friends, my family, my home, my hobbies for a career that is not going to do anything for me later in my life. So, gosh, I think these people are smart. They're going to change who we are. We're not going to work people to death, for a salary and have them fight over getting a raise. We're going to have to pay people what they're worth in order to get the work done. That's going to make us sell better. That's going to even so many things out. It's going to eliminate the human subsidy that we put into our business by finding somebody who has no life and wants to work 100 hours a week, right? That's not a good way to run your business. Anyway, that was number 2. Number 3, and this is going to sound a little self-serving because I want to talk about balance and I want to talk about the selling, planning, and administration aspects of your business. But I didn't come up with the concept of balance. We came up with the concept of balance. In the post-pandemic era, we had to scramble and do things to figure out how we were going to survive in a world where shutdowns were normal, where we couldn't rely on steady work. We had to do more with fewer people. And the answer to all of it was make the people who were selling and planning the projects anchors and keep them out of the projects so that they could be selling and planning the next project while we brought freelancers in to do the project we had just sold and planned. And that methodology led to what I teach today is we need to run businesses that are leaner and meaner. We need better people occupying fewer positions, working fewer hours, and staying off of show site whenever possible. If our key people are involved in execution only part of the time, then they're doing 2 jobs and something's getting left behind. And I guarantee you it's not execution. It's always going to be the inside job of selling and planning. So I'm seeing more of that philosophy naturally permeate through our industry because it does look like other industries, right? The plumber who comes and fixes the plumbing at your house isn't sitting behind a phone desk taking incoming calls and then writing down an order and rushing off to do business with you. That's not how it works. They have somebody else who's taking the order, somebody else who's managing the upsell, somebody else who's sending you the bill, somebody else who's scheduling, so that the person who does the work can spend more of their time doing the thing that they do well. Why can't we be that way? So keeping our selling, planning, and administration teams out of execution means that you can sell year round and you can work on your business when you're not busy getting shows done for your customers, which means you continually improve your business. There's always time to make your business better, right? Because on the busiest day of the year, you still have a full team working on your business, working on future sales, working on future planning, working on future improvements. And that's a fantastic trend. I'm seeing younger companies with fewer people be successful faster than the folks who followed the old school model. Was every time I hit a hiccup or made a mistake, I mean, I had to hire another person to do that one thing so that we don't make that mistake again. So it's an exciting time. I'm really looking forward to next year. Now, what is next year going to bring us? I don't know. I don't know what next year is going to bring. I know that if we go in with the mindset that we have built the right team, that we have a balanced organization, that we are putting women in roles that are going to help our business, that we're putting young people in roles that are going to help our businesses. We're looking at this entire ecosystem of what we do as something that can be better if we don't put ourselves into one tight little lane. If we enter 2026 with that philosophy that we can do this and our business models are going to survive whatever the world throws at us, yeah, that's a pretty good thing. I'm looking forward to that year. So, if you'd like to talk with me more about what you think next year is going to bring or how I can help you next year, the easiest thing to go to is go to my website, trstimson.com, click on Let's Chat, set up an appointment. I'd be happy to talk to you. You know, between now and the end of the year, between the beginning of next year and next time you're swamped, let's sit down, let's have a chat. I'd love to hear from you. I want to hear how these things are affecting you. I want to hear what your challenges are going to be in 2026. And if there's a way I can help you, I'd be happy to chat about that as well. Have a great rest of your year.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.